Gentlemen, to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order, and I'd like to ask for our city clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Mitchell is absent. All others are present.
Would you all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then after that, remain standing for a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the January 24th, 2023 meeting and the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 meeting in accordance with state law, City Council, and Housing Authority policy. There are no presentations on today's agenda. Staff, do you have any agenda changes?
No, sir.
Council? Looks like no. We're now at consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the City Council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you want to pull any of the consent items? Staff?
No, sir.
I'd like to make a motion then to approve the consent items. Please vote.
And for the record, sir, there were no speaker card for consent items, and the motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
Thank you. We're now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments related to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, sir. We have one card from Richard Von Tersch.
Hi, Richard. Come on up. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Gentlemen, I reside on Cajon Greens Drive, which is in the 9/2021 Bostonia area, but we are a community of about 40 families that is in the city. And Gary and I looked at the calendar, and we are in the city. But when 2 years ago I went to the police department and asked why we weren't getting patrol in that area, and he said, well, you're in the county, the sheriff should take care of you. And I pointed out to him that we are in the city, and he checked his computer, and he said, yes, you're in the city, and but do you need patrol there? Well, just their presence would make the area safe, but it's just a community with one entrance on Cajon Greens Drive off of First. So we're between Garfield and Bradley just off of First. So you have to go to the county on First Street and make a turn to the west to get on Cajon Greens Drive. And there's Cajon Greens Drive, Cajon Greens Place, Drell, and there's one other street that's off of there. But it's all a dead end, and you have to come back out Cajon Greens Drive. So it would be nice if we had patrol once in a while. The other problem is that we don't get any of the, like the events brochures or any of that stuff either. because when I talked to the police, I also went across to the city building and convinced them we were in the city. And they said what they do to save mailing costs, they bundle up a bunch of the brochures and stuff and give it to the post office for them to distribute with no addresses on them. But in the zip codes that most of the city people live in. Well, being 2021, we're in the area of Bostonia, and they don't give the post office anything to distribute in the 2021 area because most of it is county. So I'm just looking to try to help, get something for the families in that area because it's a community that has quite a few children that would probably benefit from some of the events and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
That's in that brochure.
Graham, should be easy problem to fix, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do bundle. The post office provides that service, so we bundle it. So it may be a matter of just including, making sure the post office knows that's part of the bundle package, so we can readdress or relook at the address, verify whether it's in the city or not, and then we'll just communicate with the post office on that.
And then the police issue?
What your employee said is that if the people called in and gave them their address, they would send them individually a copy of this stuff. But he had my name and address, and I haven't received any mailings from the city for the last 2 years. So
I think we can probably fix this.
If the gentleman left his contact information, we'll have that, and we can follow up on that.
And
but, like I said, there's 40 other families that would like to probably benefit from that disbursement.
And I see our chief back there. I know you heard the patrol issue as well. He's nodding at me. So thanks for coming. This is how problems get addressed. If we don't know that you're having a problem, we don't know that there is a problem. So thank you for coming.
Well, thank you.
Let me see if there's any questions or, okay. Gary?
If there's any difficulty finding out if a parcel is within the city limits or not, you can ask for a download from either the assessor or the tax collector. The first 2 digits of the tax rate area for El Cajon is 03. So anything with 03 is within the city limits.
Oh, I didn't know that. Thanks for coming, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any others?
No other speakers, sir.
Okay. There are no written communications on today's agenda. We're now at public hearings. We have one item to consider. Item 11 is appeal of a planning commission decision. I'll ask staff to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. After the posting agenda, we received a request by the appellant to withdraw their appeal. So you are right now in the middle of your public hearing. There's no need to ask for further testimony because it's moot, having withdrawn the appeal. So I would suggest that you close the public hearing and just move on with the next item. There's no action for you to take, no decisions you need to make.
Thank you, Counselor. The public hearing is now closed. We have 2 administrative reports on today's agenda. Item 12 is the modification of new hire incentive program for sworn officers. And I'll ask our staff to please tell us about this. Hi.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Marisol Thorne, Director of Human Resources. So I am here to bring back the new hire incentive program. We brought it on board about 5 years ago, and we started off with a $5,000 incentive for recruits and for laterals. And so as we have progressed, so have our neighboring cities. So we continue to have a need to recruit laterals because we have a shortage of senior officers. So in looking in our neighboring cities and the other agencies in the region, we're trying to remain competitive. So we are recommending a $28,000 incentive for our lateral officers. And this is the average of the agencies that you can see up above. With the changes in the program, we hope to continue to attract laterals. We will also bring back the recruit program, so that'll be $5,000 for recruits. And we are proposing to expand the incentive program for our existing employees to make it citywide, not just Warren. And so with that, I will answer any questions.
Thanks, Marisol. Questions? Phil?
I'm sorry. This is what we're offering to officers that come over from these agencies, or this is what these cities are offering to their recruits?
So this is what cities are offering and the county to laterals.
Got it. Okay. In comparison to our 20,000 that we're offering.
That we're proposing to offer. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
I think I saw in the staff report that a city employee can receive up to 2 bonus per year, not just 1. So that certainly is an incentive for people. And if a husband and wife or those kind of things work together for the city, actually they could get 4 in their household. Is that correct?
Potentially in a fiscal year, that could potentially happen, yes.
You know, I'm all for it. Let's find some great senior officers. Let's not replace the ones that we have. Let's keep them and add more to that.
Great.
We save a lot of money by getting experienced officers from other cities, and they hit the ground running, so I think this is money very well spent.
So I noticed that the Sheriff's Department offers 25, National City offers 30, Chula Vista's 25. I'm wondering if it might make more sense for us to think about 25, or Graham, are we locked into the 20 number?
We're recommending 20, but if council wanted to at least keep up with Chula Vista and the Sheriff's Department, that would be a realistic proposal.
I'd recommend that, but
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. Money talks, and we can always use experienced police officers, and let's be competitive.
I'm assuming in the grand scheme of things, it's not a significant amount of money.
No.
So how many lateral in the past year would you say that we've had?
Ooh, in the past,
Lateral bonuses.
lateral
Occurrences, not dollars.
bonuses. I don't have that number with me.
Ballpark, 5, 10,
About 10? 11.
11.
Thank you.
So you're looking at a max of $55,000 additional. That's not that much.
But I think this year was an unusual year because we hired a lot of laterals from departments that had been letting people go because of them not wanting to take the COVID vaccine, right? So we had an opportunity to bring a lot of laterals over. There probably, Chief, is that 11? Is that indicative of an average year, or is that a lot for? I'm just curious. I agree with you, Steve. I think even if it is 11 every year, it probably makes a very little difference. But hi, Chief.
Good afternoon. It's not indicative of a normal year. We had that influx of San Diego laterals over a course of about a year. Historically, we hadn't had a lot of San Diego PD laterals. Over the last 12 to 18 months, we did. So, usually our laterals are in the 1 to 2s. We're trying to increase that, obviously. We just did a recruitment video. We're doing a lot of outreach. So we're trying to get experienced officers. And it is a very good point that Councilmember Kendrick makes. It's a huge savings to get a lateral officer. If I get a lateral officer hired up, I can put them in the field. They're serving the community in about, a month to 2 months. If we do a recruitment and hire a brand new police officer to send through all the training that we put them through, it could be 12 to 18 months. So we're saving over a year's worth of time by hiring laterals.
Okay. I appreciate it.
But, I mean, based off of the 25 that we're proposing, do you think that's going to get us to the numbers that we need? Or are we just kind of like going with the average to try and stay with the pack? Because, I mean, if it's going to be a recruitment tool and we can save 12 months, I'm just wondering where the dollar amount, if it's only a $55,000 increase. That's my question. Is we're in the middle of the pack. If we want to stand out, let's stand out.
Are you looking to be on that one?
Yeah.
There's a couple things. One is I hope that someone isn't choosing to work for El Cajon and serve El Cajon residents because we're paying them $5,000 more than Chula Vista. I mean, we hope that gets them interested in El Cajon, but they come to El Cajon because they like our culture. And there's going to be some police officers that are going to like the culture of National City and Chula Vista and not ours. And we actually hope that they figure that out during the recruitment process because we want people that want our culture, and this is just a way to get them interested in us. I would be worried about creating an arms war between us and other cities. I think being at that $25,000 mark is safe. It puts us where sort of that top edge with some of the other bigger agencies. I think we compete a lot with Chula Vista for police officers and probably with the sheriffs as well. In fact, we get a lot of sheriff deputies coming our way. So I think the 25 is a good way to go. To be honest with you, with the job market right now, I don't know. This may not do anything, but I think you implement this, we see where it goes. We'll reassess it and come back if we think it needs to be modified. But I would recommend no more than the 25.
Great. Thank you.
Can I point something out? The agencies that have up to, there's other stipulations with that, such as what type of post certificate they have or how many years of service they have. So when you look at Chula Vista, La Mesa, Oceanside, and the sheriffs, it's not like our program where you get it at the beginning, then at completion of probation, then a year after. So their programs actually require, did you have 5 years at the other agency versus we can get someone with maybe 3 years. So not everybody gets the $25,000. And we did work with the POA on this, so thank you very much. They were very helpful, and they agreed with increasing the incentive.
All right, Marisol, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So this isn't up to, this is $25,000.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, I think we're done. Thanks, Marisol. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we after public comment, we would just need a motion and a vote on this.
Yeah, is there any speaker cards on
We
this
have
item?
no speaker cards, sir.
Okay, so we don't need to close the public hearing, so we can just discuss it and make a motion.
Move that we accept the incentive as presented in the staff modification that the top bonus is $25,000.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right.
Bill, I just want to, I have a comment. I just want to say that I've been on ride-alongs, and I wasn't doing anything except sitting there, and I was exhausted by the end of the day. So I can't imagine how exhausting it is for our police officers when they're looking everywhere. I don't know how they do it, but they're really, really good, and it's a tough job these days, a lot tougher than it's ever been. So whatever we can do to help them out, I'm all for it.
All right, the last administrative report, item 13, is a deemed approved lodging establishment update, and I'll ask staff to tell us about this.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As a reminder, the City Council adopted a lodging establishment ordinance back in 2019 that addresses community concerns about motels and hotels in the city of El Cajon. For those that were here when that happened, as you recall, that was, I think all of you, except for maybe Mr. Ortiz was even here too. As you recall, we decided to pattern the ordinance off of the ordinance that had been adopted in 1999 by the city of Oakland, in part because it had been challenged in court and had been proven to be upheld. And just anecdotally, it's indicated in the staff report that it was also adopted at a time when then Mayor Brown was the mayor of Oakland. So it's been proven to have worked for these many years. Under the ordinance, as you recall, 30 days after the ordinance was adopted, all motel or lodging establishments in the city were deemed approved. And it gave the city the ability to do a periodic inspection. We tried to do those on an annual basis. We did slow that down during the COVID years, but we've picked that up, and almost everyone has gone through at least one inspection so far, and we're getting ready to do round 2 of inspections. And it also gives the city this ability to set a certain standard And if a lodging establishment does not meet that standard, the city has the ability to take that to a public hearing with the planning commission and to either revoke or uphold their deemed approved status. Now, at that hearing, let's say the planning commission were to revoke a deemed approved status, staff would also give the applicant or the motel establishment the opportunity to also apply for a conditional use permit, which would then replace their formally deemed approved status. And that conditional use permit could include other conditions or other standards of operation that we felt were important. So the planning commission would theoretically be looking kind of at two decisions. One, revoke or not revoke their deemed approved status. And if it's revoked, do we consider a conditional use permit at that same meeting? And then they would have a decision to make based on public hearing or public comment from that. So in the past recent period of time, there are 2 motels that have received many neighborhood complaints, community concern, noticed a spike in calls for service, and one of them had a high-profile crime occur. The purpose of this agenda item is, one, to inform the council of where we are at with those 2 motels, and I'll share some of the data that supports where we're going and kind of what we're doing with them at this time. So with that, the 2 motels are El Cajon Inn and Suites and the Relax Inn and Suites. So as you can see from this chart, and this is in the staff report as well. Oh, can we go to PowerPoint, please? As you can see, we have identified what we're calling qualified calls for service. This does not include any fire, medical, or other routine police calls. These are really what we would call almost nuisance calls that we have made to the motels, these 2 motels. One has had 52 calls. The others had 61 calls in the past year. We've broken down the type of calls that we've received: domestic violence, arguments, trespassing, fights, or drug-related types of calls. And then we've identified also the calls for service per room per year. Both exceed around the 1.5 mark. As you recall, we talked about this several months ago. A study done in Arizona, including Department of Justice, was involved. I've identified kind of the average motel or hotel should really be looking at about 1 call for service per year per room. And so these are exceeding that, and this is actually even a more generous number because we took out a whole bunch of other calls. It's actually really closer to double that number. These are just that qualified calls. As you also recall, as was reported in the news, and this is from NBC News, one of the motels, El Cajon Inn and Suites, had an incident that involved the shooting of a young local high school age student, having parties for periods of time, with underage renting of rooms at this location. And so the calls for service and this crime have really resulted in the city being a little bit more proactive specifically with these 2. So I just want to share some of the actions that we've taken in the last few weeks. First of all, we've met with council members Goebel and Ortiz. As you recall, they're on our committee, the Deemed Approved Committee. We've updated them. We've got some additional input and some feedback from them, which we're really appreciative of sort of hearing their thoughts on this. Second, the council has provided formal notices to both the El Cajon Inn and Suites and the Relax Inn and Suites. We've met with the operators of the Relax Inn, and we've asked for an action plan that includes some specific things that they're going to do to reduce the calls for service and to ensure that their property is maintained in a clean and appropriate way. We are anticipating that plan shortly. I think their deadline is the next couple days or so. Fourth, staff has also met with the operators of the El Cajon Inn and Suites along with their attorney. We've gone back and forth with some correspondence. They've actually submitted an action plan. We're about to provide a written critique of that action plan in the next day or 2 that will go out to them. And then fifth, we've also sent a formal notice of violation to the El Cajon Inn and Suites that we have scheduled an administrative hearing to be held before the Planning Commission on May 16th of this year. At that hearing, the Planning Commission will be asked, after we present facts and after the public has an opportunity to weigh in, the Planning Commission will decide whether or not to revoke their deemed approved status. So this is the most significant action we've taken on a motel since the ordinance went into effect. We don't know if they're going to submit an application or for a conditional use permit, but staff has offered that and has shown them the path forward if they want to take that as an option. And then lastly, we continue to work on updating the lodging establishment deemed approved ordinance as the City Council directed, and we'll continue to work with the committee as we develop some recommendations to bolster or to augment that ordinance. So with that is really meant, this is really meant to be just an update. If staff is going completely in the wrong direction from council's perspective, it'd be helpful to know that at this time. But other than that, there's no really action required except to receive any specific feedback if we're going in the wrong direction. So with that, council.
Questions? All right. Any speaker cards on this item?
None received, sir.
All right. Any discussion, or we just want to accept the report? All right. I make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote of those present.
All right. There are no commissioner reports on today's agenda. Item 14 is my activities report. We're now at activities reports for council members. Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Kendrick.
As reported.
And Councilmember Ortiz.
Mine is as reported.
There are no joint commission or no joint council member reports, no general information items, no first readings or second readings of ordinances, and no closed session on today's agenda. So this brings us to adjournment. The regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency held this 14th day of February 2023 is adjourned until Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much.